20 iconic foods from the 50s and 60s that will give you serious nostalgia. Do you remember the iconic dishes from family dinners in the 50s and 60s? From quirky gelatin molds to elegant fondue, these meals weren't just food. They were the centerpiece of every family gathering and cocktail party. Whether you loved them or still secretly crave them, these nostalgic meals are unforgettable for those who grew up during that era. Let's take a look at these classic dishes and discover why they made such a lasting impression. Gelatin molds. In the 1950s and 1960s, gelatin molds were a must-have at any gathering or celebration. It was almost like a rule. No special occasion was truly complete without one. The star of these molded masterpieces was Jell-O, with its vibrant colors and wobbly texture. Lime Jell-O, in particular, became a favorite when it was introduced in 1930. By the 50s and 60s, lime flavor was a go-to for many creative cooks, who would mix it with all sorts of unexpected ingredients, transforming it into a true culinary experiment. You could find gelatin molds with a surprising mix of flavors and textures, some sweet, some savory. Think cottage cheese, crushed pineapple, and fresh oranges. Or how about a savory version with nuts, celery, and even sour cream? Some recipes took it to the next level, adding tangy ingredients like vinegar, grated cucumber, and onion. To make it even more daring, shrimp might top off the creation, adding a bit of luxury to the dish. These gelatin creations were certainly a reflection of the era's adventurous spirit in the kitchen. But let's just say they didn't always have the most appetizing results. Let's leave those molds in the past, shall we? Fondue. Fondue, a dish that's still a hit today, actually has roots that stretch way back. According to the BBC, one of the earliest references to dipping food into melted cheese dates back to the late 17th century. But it wasn't until the 1964 New York World's Fair that fondue really hit the spotlight. It was featured at the Switzerland exhibit, and after that, it didn't take long for the fun, interactive dish to spread like wildfire at dinner parties all over the world. By the late 1960s, if your parents were hosting a party, you could bet cheese fondue would be on the menu. It became the epitome of fancy dining. Everyone gathered around the table with a pot of gooey, melted cheese, dipping bread, vegetables, and sometimes even fruit into the velvety mix. It wasn't just about the food, it was about the experience. Everyone sharing the same pot, chatting and laughing, while the cheese kept bubbling away. Fondue is still a fantastic way to host today, adding a touch of nostalgia and fun to any gathering. If you want to take a trip down memory lane, check your parents' or grandparents' kitchen cupboards. You might just find one of those classic fondue pots tucked away, ready for another round. Swedish meatballs. Swedish meatballs. Chances are, if you were around during the 1960s, you remember these little bites of goodness making an appearance at cocktail parties. They were a must-have at the time, served as a chic snack that everyone could pop into their mouths while mingling. These meatballs were a blend of beef and pork, seasoned just right, and usually smothered in a rich gravy or a creamy sauce that made them irresistible. And for that extra touch of sweetness, they were often paired with a dollop of tangy lingonberry jam, which balanced out the savory flavors beautifully. The popularity of Swedish meatballs hasn't faded one bit. Today, you can still find these iconic treats on the menu at places like IKEA, where they've become a modern-day classic, as well as at other specialty food stores. And if you want to recreate that retro vibe in your own kitchen, it's easier than ever. Just check out Sweden's official website for a traditional recipe that lets you bring a little piece of 1960s culinary history into your home. Tuna noodle casserole. Tuna noodle casserole. While often criticized for its simplicity, this dish was a staple on dinner tables during the 1950s and 1960s. It was the epitome of convenience, requiring little more than a can opener and a few pantry staples to whip up a meal. At its core, the casserole featured canned tuna, canned mushroom soup, and a variety of seasonings, which could include everything from curry powder to the classic American cheese. It was an easy, no-fuss dinner that families could rely on, even on the busiest nights. Despite its humble ingredients, tuna noodle casserole became a beloved classic, appearing in countless variations. The 1962 cookbook Favorite Recipes of American Home Economics Teachers meets lists page after page of different ways to make this dish. Some versions included crunchy potato chips on top for extra texture, while others used whole slices of stale bread for a more hearty base. For those looking to elevate the dish a bit, cashews were sometimes added to give it a nutty twist. Pineapple upside-down cake. Pineapple upside-down cake. This classic dessert has been around for decades and remains a nostalgic favorite for many. With its vibrant rings of pineapple and maraschino cherries, it's a cake that practically shines with sweetness and sunshine. In fact, this iconic cake first made waves when it won the inaugural Dole Recipe Contest in 1926, long before it became a staple in homes across America. By the 1950s and 1960s, pineapple upside-down cake had reached the peak of its popularity. One of the main reasons for its rise was the advent of boxed cake mixes, which made the process much quicker and simpler. After World War II, boxed mixes were flying off the shelves, giving home cooks an easy way to make delicious desserts without all the hassle. Bon Appetit notes that this convenience helped push pineapple upside-down cake to the forefront of dessert tables everywhere during the mid-century. Though it's not quite as famous today, pineapple upside-down cake still has a place in the hearts of many. It's a dessert that brings a touch of old-school charm, and honestly, who can resist that caramelized, pineapple-topped goodness? Whether you're revisiting it for a trip down memory lane or introducing it to a new generation, this cake deserves a spot on the table for its sweet simplicity and timeless appeal. Which retro dish from the 1950s or 1960s do you secretly still crave today? Tuna noodle casserole, chicken a la king, fondue. Other. Please leave your answer in the comments below. Baked Alaska. Baked Alaska, a dessert that's as dramatic as it is delicious. This stunning treat, with its combination of cake, ice cream, and fluffy meringue, has a fascinating history. According to the History Channel, the creation of Baked Alaska dates back to the 1860s, when a chef at Delmonico's in New York City came up with the idea. Legend has it that the chef borrowed inspiration from French culinary techniques, but gave the dessert its American name to honor the U.S.'s recent purchase of Alaska. The dessert is as much about the presentation as it is about the taste. A layer of cake is topped with ice cream, all of which is then covered in a thick layer of meringue. The final touch is the dramatic baking of the meringue, either with a torch at the table or in the oven, creating a crisp golden exterior while keeping the ice cream frozen inside. During the mid-20th century, when at-home entertaining was at its peak, Baked Alaska became a popular showstopper at dinner parties. It wasn't just a dessert, it was a spectacle, a way for hostesses to wow their guest with something truly extravagant. Though it might not be as common today, this dessert still has the power to impress, especially for those special occasions that call for a little extra flair. Chicken a la king. Chicken a la king. This dish, rich in creamy goodness, was a beloved staple of the 1950s and 1960s, especially for its convenience and comforting flavors. The dish itself is simple but satisfying, featuring chunks of chicken, vegetables, and a velvety cream sauce, often made with canned cream of mushroom soup, because why complicate things? It was typically served over fluffy biscuits, rice, or pilaf, making it a versatile meal that could easily be adapted for any occasion. Though the dish dates back to the early 20th century, it really reached its peak during the mid-century, gracing the menus of some of New York City's most elegant restaurants. According to the New York Public Library's menu archive, chicken a la king was a favorite in fine dining spots and even made its way onto the legendary Queen Elizabeth ship, adding a touch of luxury to the onboard dining experience. While chicken a la king has largely fallen out of fashion, it's not entirely gone. You can still find canned or freeze-dried versions of the dish, though they're a far cry from the decadent versions of the past. Even if it's not a regular on dinner tables today, chicken a la king will always be remembered as a comforting classic from a bygone era. Ambrosia, a dish that many kids from the 50s and 60s remember fondly, though it's a little hard to classify. Is it a salad? A dessert? Maybe both. This colorful salad was a vibrant mix of ingredients like oranges, coconut, and sometimes maraschino cherries, bananas, pineapple, and marshmallows. For extra sweetness and texture, whipped topping and even gelatin were often folded in, making it a creamy, fruity concoction that was perfect for any occasion. The origins of ambrosia are a bit unclear, though it pops up in 19th century cookbooks, hinting at its long history. Its exact roots may be a mystery, but what's certain is that it became a favorite during the mid-20th century, especially in the South and other parts of the U.S. Over time, countless versions of the dish emerged, some with different fruits, others with nuts or additional sweeteners, allowing families to make it their own. Meatloaf. Chances are it was a regular on your dinner table during the 50s and 60s, and every mom seemed to have her own version. It's the kind of dish that brings back memories of home-cooked meals and family gatherings. Simple, yet hearty. While its origins trace back to the Great Depression, when meat was expensive, meatloaf truly became a beloved comfort food in the post-war years. It offered an affordable way to stretch a family meal with plenty of leftovers for sandwiches the next day. According to Bon Appetit, its versatility in using inexpensive ground meat and pantry staples made it a go-to for busy families. For many, the true joy of meatloaf was in how it could be customized. Some preferred it slathered in ketchup for that tangy kick, while others kept it simple, focusing on the savory mix of ground beef, breadcrumbs, and seasonings. Regardless of the style, meatloaf became more than just a meal. It was a symbol of resourcefulness and comfort. Though it may not show up on our dinner plates as often today, meatloaf remains a classic American dish. It's one of those meals that, even if you haven't made it in years, still holds a special place in the hearts of many. What was your favorite family meal back in the day? Share your memories with us. Tunnel of Fudge Cake, a dessert that took the world by storm after winning the 1966 Pillsbury Bake-Off. This cake was an instant hit, and it's easy to see why. As it baked, the cake developed a rich, fudge-like center that oozed out in every bite, creating a gooey, indulgent experience. The cake's texture was reminiscent of today's popular chocolate lava cakes, but it had its own unique charm. What made this dessert even more memorable was the use of a bundt pan, which had already started to gain popularity thanks to the Nordic Ware Company. After the Tunnel of Fudge Cake claimed victory in the Pillsbury Bake-Off, bundt pan sales soared, with home bakers eager to recreate this show-stopping dessert in their own kitchens. The recipe became a household staple, especially in the 60s, and remains a beloved treat for many who remember the excitement around that winning bake-off. Today, though the bundt pan might be more commonly used for other cakes, the Tunnel of Fudge Cake continues to hold a special place in the hearts of dessert lovers, a sweet reminder of an iconic moment in baking history. Frozen dinners, an invention born out of necessity and innovation that changed the way American families ate. In 1953, Swanson faced a problem. They had 260 tons of leftover turkey after Thanksgiving. Rather than let it go to waste, they came up with a creative solution: flash freezing the turkey and packaging it in small aluminum trays, ready to be reheated. This idea led to the creation of the TV dinner, a convenient meal that was quick, easy, and perfect for busy families. As the country's love affair with television grew, so did the appeal of these prepackaged meals. Families, especially those with working parents or limited time to cook, found these frozen dinners to be a game changer. No longer did you have to spend hours in the kitchen, just heat and eat. The meals were usually divided into compartments with different portions of meat, vegetables, and potatoes, and became a standard at the dinner table. While these dinners were convenient, they often sparked sibling rivalries, especially when it came to who would get the Salisbury steak. Even today, TV dinners remain a nostalgic part of American culinary history, a reminder of the era when frozen food made its mark on family life and convenience eating. Beef stroganoff. Beef stroganoff, a dish with origins in French cuisine, first mentioned in a food article dating back to 1891, according to food historian Sylvia Lovegren in Fashionable Food, 7 Decades of Food Fads. The dish quickly became a staple of fine dining, particularly in the early 20th century. By the time the 1950s rolled around, beef stroganoff was showing up in nearly every cookbook that featured a gourmet section. It was a sign of sophistication and a bit of a culinary status symbol for home cooks wanting to impress their guests. However, as with many classic dishes, there were countless variations of beef stroganoff during the 50s and 60s. Some recipes included sautéed mushrooms, while others opted for a rich tomato paste for added depth of flavor. A common shortcut was using canned cream of mushroom soup, which made the dish easier to prepare without sacrificing that creamy, savory texture. While the original recipe called for tender beef fillet, many home cooks substituted hamburger meat, making it more affordable for families. This rich, creamy dish was typically served over buttered noodles or rice, making it the perfect comfort food. Despite its evolution over the years, beef stroganoff remains a beloved classic, a nod to both French culinary tradition and the convenience-focused, flavor-rich cooking style of mid-century America. Party mixes. Party mixes. Who would have thought that a simple combination of cereal, nuts, and seasonings would become such a popular snack sensation? It all started in 1952, when the first recipe for what we now know as party mix was printed on boxes of Chex cereal. The story goes that the recipe gained real traction after a cereal executive's wife served it at a social gathering, and from there, it quickly became a holiday tradition in many households. Whether by luck or word of mouth, this snack became a go-to for any event, big or small. For kids growing up in the 50s and 60s, making party mix was a fun, hands-on activity, and eating it was even more fun. Batches of crunchy, salty, and sometimes spicy goodness were scarfed down during family gatherings, parties, and movie nights. The beauty of party mix was in its simplicity. You could easily toss together whatever ingredients you had on hand, making it adaptable and budget-friendly. Even though party mixes were a quintessential snack of the 50s and 60s, they've remained a retro favorite, evolving with new variations each year. Whether it's added pretzels, cheese crackers, or spicy seasonings, the spirit of the classic party mix lives on. Rumaki. Rumaki. If you ever attended a tiki-themed party in the 60s, you were almost certain to find this unique appetizer on the menu. The decade was a golden era for tiki culture, with places like Trader Vic's, the Hawaiian Room in New York City, and the excitement surrounding Hawaii's admission as the 50th state in 1959, fueling the trend. Tiki parties were all about tropical flavors and exotic vibes, and the pupu platter became a go-to way to serve up a variety of small bites with a Polynesian flair. One of the most popular items on the platter was rumaki, savory little morsels of chicken liver and water chestnuts wrapped in crispy bacon. This combination of rich, earthy chicken liver with the crunch of water chestnuts and the smoky bacon became an instant hit at cocktail parties and luau-inspired gatherings. It was an appetizer that was both bold and unusual, making it a perfect conversation starter at any party. Even if you don't serve it at your next gathering, it's a fun, vintage recipe that brings back the carefree spirit of a bygone era. Tomato aspic. Tomato aspic. Though it might sound a bit odd to modern palates, this dish was once a staple at ladies' luncheons and gatherings, According to food historian Sylvia Lovegren in Fashionable Food, 7 Decades of Food Fads. Like many other gelatin-based dishes of the 50s and 60s, tomato aspic was often presented in a fancy mold, making it as much about the visual presentation as it was about the taste. Canned tomato soup or tomato juice served as the base, creating a tangy, savory foundation for the dish. To add a little extra flavor, ingredients like onions, celery, and a dash of Tabasco were added, giving the aspic a subtle kick. In the world of retro dishes, tomato aspic was a perfect example of mid-century Jell-O mania, where nearly every dish, from appetizers to desserts, was molded and gelatinized for dramatic effect. This dish, in particular, was often served as a refreshing first course at elegant affairs or during casual get-togethers. However, its popularity faded over time, and today, tomato aspic is nearly forgotten, much to the relief of most modern-day diners. Despite its decline, it remains a quirky piece of culinary history from a bygone era when presentation often took center stage. Were there any retro recipes you just couldn't get enough of? We'd love to hear which ones made it to your table. Fruit cocktail cake. Fruit cocktail cake, a simple yet nostalgic treat that came into being when fruit cocktail was first created to make use of the small, leftover fruit pieces left behind after processing. Originally a cost-effective and convenient pantry staple, it became a go-to for busy families looking for a quick dessert. In the mid-1950s, someone decided to take that familiar canned fruit and incorporate it into a basic cake recipe, creating what would become a beloved retro dessert. As Ann Byrne mentions in American Cake, this innovation resulted in a cake that was not only easy to make, but also incredibly moist, thanks to the addition of fruit cocktail. The beauty of this cake lies in its simplicity. With just a few basic ingredients, many of which were likely already in the pantry, like canned fruit, sugar, flour, and butter, it could be whipped up in minutes. For busy cooks in the 50s and 60s, the fruit cocktail cake offered a fast, homemade dessert option that didn't require much effort. And despite its humble origins, this moist cake remains a delicious and nostalgic recipe worth revisiting. Clam dip. Clam dip, a retro snack that quickly became a hit when it first made its TV debut on the Kraft Music Hall in the early 50s. According to Sylvia Lovegren's Fashionable Food, 7 Decades of Food Fads, the recipe's appearance on the show caused such a stir that New York City completely sold out of canned clams within just 24 hours. This surge in popularity turned clam dip into a must-have at social gatherings, especially throughout the 60s. The dip was simple yet flavorful, combining canned clams, cream cheese, and other seasonings to create a creamy, savory spread. It quickly became a staple at family parties, card games, and casual get-togethers. Whether served with crackers or raw veggies, clam dip was a snack everyone could enjoy. While it may not be as common today, clam dip still holds a special place in the hearts of those who grew up during that era. It's a reminder of simpler times when families would gather on a Saturday night, playing card games, sharing stories, and enjoying a dish that was easy to make, but always a crowd pleaser. If you ever find yourself looking for a taste of nostalgia, clam dip is just the thing to bring those memories flooding back. Canned meat. Canned meat, a staple of American kitchens in the 1950s and 1960s, with one brand standing out above the rest: Spam. Introduced in 1937, Spam became a household name, especially during and after World War II, and when it was shipped around the world to feed U.S. troops. The convenience, long shelf life, and affordability made it popular in households across the country. By 1959, Spam reached a major milestone with the production of its 1 billionth can. For many kids in the 50s and 60s, Spam, or similar canned meats, was a regular feature at the dinner table. Whether fried up with eggs, added to casseroles, or served in sandwiches, it was an easy, inexpensive option that could be quickly prepared. While canned meat might not have the gourmet appeal of fresh cuts, it was a practical choice during a time when convenience was key. What's remarkable is that, unlike many other food fads that have disappeared over time, Spam has remained a beloved and recognizable product. Still produced and sold in 44 countries worldwide, its enduring popularity proves that this humble, shelf-stable meat has more staying power than many might expect. Please comment 1 to let me know you'll be watching this video until the end. Wacky Cake. Wacky Cake, a quirky dessert that first appeared in the late 1940s, became a beloved treat throughout the 1950s and 1960s. What makes it wacky? It's made without eggs, butter, or milk, ingredients that were often scarce or expensive during tough times. Instead, the cake relies on basic pantry staples like flour, sugar, and cocoa powder, with the wet ingredients being mixed directly in the baking pan. The simplicity and low cost of Wacky Cake made it a go-to recipe for busy homemakers looking for a quick, easy dessert to serve on short notice, especially when unexpected guests arrived. No need for a mixer or fancy equipment, just mix the ingredients right in the pan and bake. The cake's moist, chocolatey texture became a favorite in many households, and it was even sometimes made by children due to how easy it was to prepare. Wacky Cake has stayed in the hearts of many nostalgic food lovers, still popular for its budget-friendly ingredients and surprisingly delicious results. It's the kind of recipe that shows how creativity in the kitchen can make something simple and delightful. Beef Bourguignon. Beef Bourguignon, a French classic, became a household name in America during the 1960s, largely thanks to the influence of Julia Child. As she introduced her first cookbook and TV show, she captured the hearts of Americans with her warm, approachable style and a knack for demystifying complex French cuisine. Her popularization of French dishes, especially beef bourguignon, sparked a culinary movement that encouraged many home cooks to try their hand at sophisticated recipes they had previously only dreamed of attempting. Beef bourguignon is a slow-cooked stew featuring tender beef braised in red wine, usually Burgundy, along with aromatics like onions, garlic, carrots, and mushrooms. The dish takes time, often several hours, to cook, which made it the perfect centerpiece for elaborate dinner parties during the 60s. It was the ultimate showpiece to impress guests with both its depth of flavor and the chef's commitment to the craft of French cooking. Julia Child's enthusiastic endorsement of this dish inspired many to embrace French culinary techniques. Today, beef bourguignon remains a favorite for those who appreciate rich, flavorful meals and the joy of cooking like a French master. So, pour yourself a glass of wine, just as Julia would, and savor the timeless appeal of this comforting dish. 20 fancy restaurants from the 1970s that no longer exist. Ever wonder what happened to your favorite old-school restaurants? The ones with sizzling steaks, bottomless popcorn, and legendary salad bars. In this video, we're taking a delicious trip back in time to explore 20 beloved restaurants from the 1970s that vanished from the spotlight. Get ready for a mouth-watering dose of nostalgia you didn't know you were craving. Le Peep. Le Peep wasn't just a breakfast joint, it was a morning ritual for many. Founded in 1988 by Bill Eisch, the late husband of Kathleen Eisch, this cozy little restaurant quickly won hearts with the warm scent of coffee and the comforting clatter of plates filled with home-style breakfasts. It was a place where families gathered on Sunday mornings, where friends caught up over pancakes, and where regulars found their favorite booth and a friendly smile waiting. The menu was a celebration of all things breakfast. From fluffy omelets and golden pancakes to delicate crepes and hearty skillets, Le Peep had something to satisfy every craving. And let's not forget the endless refills of hot, freshly brewed coffee, the kind that kept conversations going and mornings bright. What truly set Le Peep apart, though, was its atmosphere. The service was warm and personal, and the hospitality felt like home. As word spread, the brand grew, opening locations across the country and gaining a loyal following. But like many legacy businesses, Le Peep faced serious challenges over time. Stricter public health regulations and operational shifts made it tough to sustain the original model. While affiliated locations continue to serve customers nationwide, the original Lee Peep has since closed, leaving behind a legacy of warm meals, fond memories, and the smell of fresh coffee in the air. Howard Johnson's Restaurant. If you ever hit the open road during the 1960s or 70s, chances are you stopped at a Howard Johnson's. With its bright orange roof and familiar cupola, this roadside icon was like a warm, welcoming beacon for hungry travelers. Whether you were on a family vacation, a long-haul drive, or just passing through, Howard Johnson's was the go-to spot that felt like home, even miles away from it. Founded in 1925 by Howard Deering Johnson, the chain started as a simple soda fountain, but quickly grew into a beloved dining staple. By the 1970s, it had become one of America's largest and most recognizable restaurant chains, often paired with Howard Johnson's motor lodges, making it more than just a place to eat, but a full travel experience. The menu was a dream for road trippers: juicy burgers, crispy fried chicken, thick milkshakes, and their famous 28 flavors of ice cream. Families loved it. Kids looked forward to those Sundays, and the food was comforting, consistent, and affordable. But as fast food giants like McDonald's and Burger King expanded and new highways rerouted traffic away from the old roadside stops, Howard Johnson's couldn't keep up. One by one, locations shut down. Which of these 1970s restaurants do you remember dining at? And what was your go-to order? Chi-Chi's. In the late 1970s and throughout the 80s, if you were craving bold flavors and a festive night out, Chi-Chi's was the place to be. Founded in 1975 by Marno McDermott in Minneapolis, Minnesota, Chi-Chi's brought a vibrant slice of Mexico to American dining. Inspired by McDermott's travels south of the border, the restaurant offered authentic flavors, colorful decor, and an atmosphere that felt like a fiesta every night. The menu was a celebration of Mexican cuisine: fajitas sizzling on cast-iron skillets, cheesy enchiladas, crunchy tacos, and crispy chimichangas, all served with flair. Everything was made with bold spices and fresh ingredients, bringing the rich tastes of Mexico to the American palate. And let's not forget the margaritas, strong, icy, and served with a smile. Chi-Chi's wasn't just a restaurant. It was an experience, and diners loved it. At its peak, Chi-Chi's had over 200 locations nationwide and was a leader in popularizing Mexican food in the U.S. But trouble hit in the early 2000s. Financial issues and changing dining trends began to take their toll. Then, in 2003, tragedy struck. An outbreak of hepatitis A linked to tainted green onions caused serious illness and several deaths. The damage to Chi-Chi's reputation was devastating. By 2004, the chain filed for bankruptcy and closed its doors. Ponderosa Steakhouse. Back in the groovy days of the 1970s, when disco ruled the airwaves and bell-bottoms were the height of fashion, Ponderosa Steakhouse was the place to go for a filling, affordable meal. Whether you were out with the family or grabbing dinner after work, Ponderosa had that down-home charm and mouth-watering aroma that drew you right in. The moment you stepped inside, the scent of sizzling steaks filled the air, teasing your appetite and promising something good. Ponderosa was founded in 1965 by Dan Lassiter, Norm Weiss, and Charles Kleps in Kokomo, Indiana. By 1971, the company had moved its headquarters to Dayton, Ohio, and the chain exploded in popularity. Their juicy ribeyes and classic T-bones were the stars of the menu, but what really set them apart was their legendary all-you-can-eat buffet. With heaping servings of mashed potatoes, buttery corn, fresh salad, and more. It was a feast for any appetite. At its peak in 1989, Ponderosa boasted over 700 locations across the country. But as times changed, so did dining habits. The 2008 financial crisis hit hard, forcing the company into Chapter 7 liquidation. Over 300 restaurants closed. By the end of 2023, only 13 remained, a quiet reminder of a steakhouse empire that once fed America. Bonanza Steakhouse. Back in the 1970s, Bonanza Steakhouse wasn't just a place to grab dinner. It was a full-on experience, especially for families craving a hearty, affordable steak meal. It offered the kind of comfort food people loved: juicy steaks, loaded baked potatoes, crispy golden fries, and a salad bar that felt endless. Bonanza made dining out feel like a special treat without breaking the bank. What made it even more iconic was its founder, Dan Blocker, the actor who played the lovable Hoss Cartwright on the hit TV show Bonanza. In 1963, he took his fame and love for good food and opened a restaurant where folks could enjoy a satisfying steak dinner in a casual, welcoming atmosphere. The name Bonanza wasn't just a nod to his show, it was a promise of abundance and quality. Whether it was a sizzling T-bone or a tender filet, Bonanza had something for everyone. Families flocked there to celebrate birthdays, anniversaries, or just enjoy a Saturday night out. But like many chains from that golden era, Bonanza fell on hard times. By 2008, it filed for bankruptcy and shuttered over 100 locations. Today, only a few Bonanza restaurants remain, serving up nostalgia with everybody can Sandy's. Before the fast food giants fully took over, there was Sandy's, a beloved burger joint that delivered classic American eats with heart and hometown pride. Founded in 1958 by four ambitious businessmen, Gus Apostolou, Bob Warren, Harry Barber, and Paul White, Sandy's quickly gained a loyal following for its simple, satisfying meals served at wallet-friendly prices. The menu was everything you'd expect from a mid-century diner done right. Hamburgers and cheeseburgers grilled to perfection, hot dogs with all the fixings, golden fries, crispy onion rings, and frosty sodas that hit the spot on a summer day. It was the perfect place for a quick lunch, a casual dinner, or a weekend treat with the kids. Sandy's became a staple in towns across the Midwest, opening locations rapidly throughout the 1960s and 70s. But as the fast food scene exploded and chains like McDonald's and Burger King began to dominate, Sandy's started to fall behind. Financial challenges and operational strain made it harder to keep up. Around that time, Hardee's was expanding and saw an opportunity. In a major shift, 90% of Sandy's restaurants were merged into Hardee's, while the remaining 10% continued under the Sandy's name for a while longer. Eventually, though, time caught up. By 2007, the final Sandy's location closed its doors for good. Victoria Station. Step inside Victoria Station and you were instantly transported, not just to a restaurant, but to a different time. Founded in 1969 by Dick Bradley, Peter Lee, and Bob Freeman, Victoria Station was more than a meal. It was an experience. Inspired by the elegance of old-school train travel, the restaurant featured real vintage railway cars that were converted into dining rooms. Each booth was tucked inside a cozy train car, complete with dim lighting and plush seating. It felt like a journey back to the golden age of railroads, without ever leaving your table. The menu didn't disappoint either. They served up hearty American fare like sizzling steaks, tender seafood platters, and juicy burgers. The salad bar was a big hit too, offering fresh greens, colorful toppings, and classic dressings that made it a destination in itself. During the 1970s, Victoria Station grew rapidly, with over 100 locations across the U.S. It struck a nostalgic chord with baby boomers who loved the charm and novelty. Families came for the food, but stayed for the atmosphere, an unforgettable blend of history and hospitality. Sadly, economic pressures caught up, and by 1992, Victoria Station had vanished from the U.S. Steak and ale. In the world of casual dining, steak and ale was a true game changer. Created in 1966 by restaurant visionary Norman Brinker This beloved chain quickly captured the hearts and stomachs of Americans everywhere. Brinker had a bold idea: give people a place where they could unwind, enjoy a hearty steak dinner, and still leave with money in their pocket. And that's exactly what Steak and Ale delivered. The atmosphere was warm and inviting, with dark wood interiors and a cozy, almost pub-like feel. But the real star? The food. Steak and Ale offered thick, juicy steaks cooked to perfection, buttery baked potatoes, and fresh, crispy salads. One of its standout features was the iconic salad wagon, a charming little cart that rolled right up to your table, loaded with toppings, veggies, and dressings. You could build your salad exactly the way you wanted, and people loved it. Throughout the 70s and 80s, it was the go-to spot for birthdays, anniversaries, or just a nice dinner out. It had that perfect mix of comfort, class, and affordability. But as dining trends shifted and competition grew, Steak and Ale struggled to keep up. In 2008, after years of financial strain, the once thriving chain went bankrupt. The Brown Derby. In its heyday, the Brown Derby wasn't just a restaurant, it was the symbol of Hollywood elegance and stardom. Imagine walking into a place where movie stars dined at the next table, where deals were made over martinis, and where the air practically shimmered with glamour. That was the Brown Derby. And during the 1970s, if you were lucky enough to visit, you could still catch a glimpse of its golden age charm. Founded in 1926 by Wilson Misner, the original Brown Derby was located right on Wilshire Boulevard, and its iconic building, shaped like a brown derby hat, was impossible to miss. It wasn't just eye-catching, it became a landmark. Everyone from actors and actresses to producers and screenwriters made it their favorite haunt. If you wanted to dine like a star, this was the place to be. The menu featured elevated American classics, tender steaks, fresh seafood, and of course, the famous Cobb salad, which was said to be invented right there. It was refined, yet approachable, classy without being stuffy. But time took its toll. The restaurant changed hands several times, and by the 1980s, the original Brown Derby had closed its doors. The building was eventually demolished, replaced by a shopping center. All that remains today is the Dome, a quiet echo of a glittering past. Trader Vic's. When you stepped into Trader Vic's, you weren't just going out for dinner, you were stepping into an island paradise. Founded in 1934 by Victor Jules Bergeron Jr., better known as Trader Vic, this California-based restaurant became the birthplace of the tiki dining craze. With bamboo decor, glowing lanterns, and tropical music drifting through the air, Trader Vic's offered a full sensory escape from everyday life. The food was as bold as the decor. Guests feasted on Polynesian-inspired dishes like tender ribs smothered in tangy barbecue sauce, sizzling island-style chicken, and tropical seafood platters. And then there were the drinks. Served in quirky tiki mugs with umbrellas and fruit garnishes, the cocktails were legendary. The most famous of all? The Mai Tai, Trader Vic's own invention, a smooth and citrusy rum drink that became a global sensation. During its peak, Trader Vic's was the go-to spot for celebrities, jet-setters, and anyone craving a little adventure with their dinner. It was glamorous, exotic, and just plain fun. But as tastes changed and the tiki trend faded in the 80s and 90s, younger generations moved on. The chain gradually shrank. Today, only a few Trader Vic's locations remain in the US, but the legend, and that original Mai Tai, live on. York Steakhouse. Back in the day, York Steakhouse was one of those hidden gems you could count on for a hearty, satisfying meal without spending a fortune. Founded in 1966 by Eddie Grayson and Bernie Gross, this cozy restaurant quickly became a favorite across the country. The moment you walked through the doors, you were met with the comforting scent of sizzling steak and warm, buttery rolls, an aroma that made your mouth water before you even saw the menu. York Steakhouse offered something for everyone. Whether you were in the mood for a thick, juicy sirloin, a tender filet mignon, or a no-frills hamburger grilled just right, you could find it here. Add in creamy mashed potatoes, a side of green beans or corn, and those famous golden dinner rolls, and you had yourself a meal that felt like home, only better. It wasn't just about the food, though. The prices were fair, the service was friendly, and the atmosphere was warm and welcoming. Families came for birthday dinners, couples for casual date nights, and travelers found comfort in its consistency. But like many mid-century chains, York Steakhouse eventually lost steam. By the late 1980s, changing tastes and fierce competition led to widespread closures, and by 1989, most locations had shut their doors. The Ground Round. Founded in 1969 by Howard Johnson's, this casual dining spot wasn't just about food, it was about fun. From the moment you walked in, the smell of buttery, freshly popped popcorn greeted you. And the best part? That popcorn was free and bottomless. For families, it was a little piece of heaven. The Ground Round was one of the few places where you could kick back in a cozy booth, order up a juicy burger or crispy chicken tenders, and let the kids munch away on popcorn while you waited. Their menu was packed with crowd pleasers, cheesy nachos, hearty sandwiches, tasty appetizers, and rich desserts that hit the spot. It wasn't gourmet, but it was good, affordable, and reliable. The atmosphere was relaxed and welcoming. You could come in after a long day, grab a drink by the bar, or enjoy a fun family meal without breaking the bank. That balance of comfort, quality, and price made it a neighborhood favorite. But as dining trends shifted and competition tightened, the Ground Round struggled. In 2004, the franchise filed for bankruptcy, and nearly half the restaurants closed without warning. Today, only a few locations remain, holding on to the legacy of a restaurant that once meant good food and good times for millions of American families. Thank you for watching. To continue with more content, comment 1 to let us know you're still following. The Magic Pan. Stepping into the Magic Pan in the 1970s felt like walking into a storybook cafe where the air was thick with the rich, buttery aroma of sizzling crepes. This charming eatery was the creation of Hungarian immigrants, Leo and Paul Iono, who opened the first location in San Francisco during the 1960s. What began as a small, cozy spot quickly grew into a nationwide sensation, all thanks to its warm ambiance and one-of-a-kind crepe-making show. The Magic Pan specialized in crepes, both sweet and savory, that brought a touch of European flair to American dining. Their signature dishes included indulgent offerings like chicken devon, spinach and mushroom soufflé crepes, and sweet classics like strawberry with sour cream and the ever-popular crepe Suzette. But what truly set the Magic Pan apart was its high-tech kitchen magic. A motorized conveyor that heated crepe pans, dipping them into batter and spinning them to perfection. Watching those thin pancakes bubble and brown before your eyes was part of the experience. In 1970, Quaker Oats purchased the Magic Pan, expanding it into a major restaurant chain. But over time, changing tastes and management shifts led to its decline. In 2005, a new version of the Magic Pan was revived in Illinois by Lettuce Entertain You Enterprises. It didn't have the iconic crepe-making machine, but it paid tribute to the original with its recreated recipes and nostalgic menu, offering a sweet taste of the past for new generations. Do you have any special memories, family dinners, first dates, or celebrations at any of these places? The Velvet Turtle. In the 1970s, if you were looking for a restaurant that felt elegant without being stuffy, cozy without being casual, the Velvet Turtle was the place to be. Founded in 1961 by David Talashay, one of the pioneers of themed dining, the restaurant offered a warm, welcoming escape where the food was just as refined as the atmosphere. The Velvet Turtle specialized in classic American cuisine with a touch of sophistication. Diners came for the rich, slow-roasted prime rib, fork-tender filet mignon, and fresh seafood dishes that balanced flavor and presentation beautifully. From buttery lobster tails to shrimp scampi and perfectly seasoned salmon, the kitchen took pride in every plate. And no meal was complete without a decadent dessert, creamy cheesecakes, chocolate mousse, or perhaps a slice of warm pie to finish things off. What made the Velvet Turtle stand out was its ambiance. The name itself suggested comfort and elegance, and the interiors lived up to that promise, with soft lighting, plush seating, and a calm, classy vibe that invited guests to linger. It quickly gained a reputation for excellent service and quality food, making it a go-to spot for special nights out. However, like many beloved chains, time wasn't kind to the Velvet Turtle. After changing hands in 1986, the restaurant gradually lost its footing, and by the early 1990s, the remaining locations had closed. Sambo's. Founded in 1957 by Sam Battistone Sr. and Newell Bonnet, the restaurant's name came from a simple blend of their own, Sam and Bo. But while the name stirred controversy due to its association with the character from Little Black Sambo, the food and service made Sambo's a beloved stop for families across the country. Sambo's quickly rose to national fame for one big reason: it served breakfast all day, and it did it well. Picture stacks of golden pancakes dripping with syrup, sizzling bacon on the side, fluffy omelets made to order, and cups of strong, hot coffee that never ran dry. The menu was large, the portions generous, and the prices easy on the wallet. Whether you were stopping in after church, heading out on a road trip, or pulling off a night shift, Sambo's always had a plate ready for you. At its peak, Sambo's boasted over 1,100 locations across the U.S., but by the 1980s, financial troubles, changing social climates, and fierce competition from rising chains began to take a toll. Gradually, stores were closed or rebranded, and the once mighty breakfast empire faded into memory. What restaurant from today do you think will be nostalgic for 30 years from now? Geno's Hamburgers. Everybody goes to Geno's. That catchy slogan echoed through neighborhoods in the 1960s and 70s, making Geno's Hamburgers a household name. Founded in 1957 by NFL Hall of Famer Gino Marchetti and his business partner Louis Fisher, this Baltimore-based burger joint quickly rose to fame as one of the East Coast's favorite fast food spots. It wasn't just about the food, it was about pride, community, and a touch of star power. Geno's menu was straightforward but unforgettable. Their crown jewel was the Geno Giant, a towering burger with 2 juicy beef patties, melty cheese, crisp lettuce, fresh tomato, and a secret special sauce, all tucked into a soft sesame seed bun. Paired with hot fries and a thick milkshake, it hit the spot every time. The chain's no-frills, quality-first approach made it a go-to for families, teens, and game day crowds alike. At its peak, Geno's expanded rapidly, spreading across the Mid-Atlantic and parts of the Midwest. But as giants like McDonald's and Burger King tightened their grip on the market, Geno's began to lose ground. In the late 1980s, Marriott Corporation acquired the company and quietly phased out the Geno's brand, replacing locations with Roy Rogers or other chains. Houlihan's. Founded on April 1, 1972, in Kansas City's iconic Country Club Plaza by Paul Robinson and Joe Gilbert, Houlihan's wasn't just a restaurant, it was a vibe. The two visionary restaurateurs wanted to create a place that felt lively and modern, where you could eat well, drink something great, and enjoy good company without the formality of fine dining. Houlihan's delivered just that. Its menu was packed with approachable American classics, but always with a fresh twist. You could dig into a tender steak, build the perfect burger, enjoy crisp salads, or dive into a plate of flavorful pasta. And the bar? That's where Houlihan's really made its mark, with signature cocktails, craft beers, and a wine list that made any night feel like a celebration. Throughout the 80s and 90s, the brand expanded rapidly, opening in cities across the country and becoming a go-to destination for casual dinners, date nights, and friendly get-togethers. It had the right mix of energy and comfort. But like many chains, it eventually struggled to maintain its early momentum. Around 60% of the restaurants became franchises, and in 2002, the original Houlihan's closed its doors. Beefsteak Charlie's. Back in the late 70s and into the 80s, if you wanted a hearty meal with all the extras, Beefsteak Charlie's was the place to go. Founded in 1976 by Larry Ellman, this restaurant chain set out to deliver more than just good food. It was all about the experience. With an inviting atmosphere, generous portions, and one unforgettable salad bar, Beefsteak Charlie's quickly became a fan favorite across the country. The menu offered something for everyone. From tender, sizzling steaks and juicy burgers to fresh seafood and crisp garden salads, the meals were classic American comfort food done right. But the crown jewel? That legendary salad bar. Piled high with greens, toppings, dressings, and extras. It wasn't just a side, it was a meal in itself. Diners loved the variety, and many came back just for the salad bar. To top it all off, the restaurant was famous for offering bottomless sangria, beer, and wine, something unheard of at the time. Despite its strong start and growing popularity, the chain lost its footing after merging with Bombay Palace Restaurants. By 1992, only 2 locations remained. One closed its doors, and the other was rebranded as Joe Franklin's. Today, Beefsteak Charlie's exists only in memory, a once thriving icon of indulgence and generosity that defined dining for a generation. Rack's Roast Beef. For many Midwesterners, especially those in Ohio, the name Rack's Roast Beef brings back the warm, savory memories of comfort food done right. Founded in 1967 by Jack Rashman, Rack's began as a simple idea: to serve up roast beef sandwiches that stood apart from the rest. And that's exactly what it did. The thinly sliced, slow-cooked roast beef, nestled inside soft, warm buns, was the star of the show. Add in a variety of sauces and toppings, and you had a sandwich that kept people coming back. But Rack's wasn't a one-trick pony. It also offered fried chicken, hearty sides, and a range of desserts that rounded out the menu and made it a family favorite. People loved the value. The portions were generous, the prices affordable, and the service friendly. By 1969, Rashman sold the chain to General Foods, which briefly rebranded it as Rick's Roast Beef. Eventually, it returned to the Rack's name and continued to grow until the 1990s brought tough times. A series of financial missteps and changing consumer tastes led to bankruptcy in 1996. The once booming chain began to shrink. As of March 2024, just 6 Rack's locations remain open. They stand as small but proud reminders of a time when a simple roast beef sandwich could feel like a warm hug, and when Rack's was more than just a restaurant. It was a beloved part of America's fast food history. Did I miss any of your favorite retro dishes? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, be sure to check out the other videos in this series. Don't forget to subscribe and share Who Remembers with friends and family who'd love to join the fun. Thanks so much for watching, and see you in the next video.